The Wisconsin Supreme Court race is a good example of this, where Elon Musk tried so hard, right? He put in tens of millions of dollars to try and buy that election, but he ended up making the race more about himself. His money was toxic, and our money got the vote out about our candidate. And so you don't have to have more money, but we do have more people, and we just have to be able to leverage that power. And so we're creating the national infrastructure, the coordination, so that our people power can translate into every single vote that it possibly can.
Hello, and welcome to the PoliticsGirl podcast. I'm your host, Lee McGowan. Let's get into it. For more than 2 decades, Democratic fundraising has been powered by the same basic playbook. Send tons of emails and now text, raise as much money as possible, and hope donors pick the right races to send their money. But donors, even when they know money needs to be raised, are sick of the never-ending financial asks. They don't necessarily have the knowledge to invest strategically. They get caught up in the big races or the big names that we want to defeat or get them out, and we end up giving all of our money to the same people while ignoring the races where that money could have gone further or really changed the results. That's why our guest, Brian Derrick, created Oath. Oath is a donor-first political giving platform that does the research to make sure every dollar you send is used effectively, that it goes to races that can actually be won, districts that are underfunded, candidates who can flip a state legislature or a Supreme Court balance. And they are effective, having now processed nearly $100 million in contributions in under 4 years. I'm having Brian on today as we head into the deepest part of summer to remember that political fundraising doesn't stop, particularly in an election year. And I want you to know there's a new way to spend your money, a more effective way, a more accountable way, and a way where we really start racking up the wins, which is exactly what we need to do heading into the midterms. I don't know about you, but I am not ceding power to this criminal self-serving group of monsters for one more election season. Not even if they're cheating, not even if they're gerrymandering to do it. We have to win. So we have to put our money where it can actually happen. Oath is that organization, and you need to know about it. If you want hope right now, this is a conversation that is entirely worth your time. So without further ado, please welcome our guest, former Democratic operative and founder of Oath, one of the fastest growing fundraising platforms in all of politics, Brian Derrick. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you came. Also, I was just saying to you, I think the last time we actually had a full conversation was at the DNC, back when we were like, we're going to win and everything's going to be better and we're going to fix everything. And things didn't go exactly to plan.
It was a brat girl summer, and it turned into a pretty shitty fall. But yes, it has been way too long. So Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for coming. And honestly, more importantly, thank you for starting Oath. I mean, obviously, political fundraising platforms are in the news right now because the Congressional Oversight Committee is trying to take down Act Blue. Clearly, the Republicans are using the power of the federal government to go after their political enemies right now, which is obviously completely wrong. But I believe that you guys at Oath feel that even with this ridiculous inquiry aside, the traditional political fundraising apparatus like Act Blue was kind of overdue for real competition. So while we prefer that they weren't coming after Act Blue, why do you think this is a good time for people to think of new ways to give and new organizations to work with?
There's been so much change in the last few years that you've covered extensively in how money impacts our politics. We are watching billionaires in real time try to buy seats, whether it's on state Supreme Courts like Elon Musk did, or in Congress, where you see AI and crypto super PACs pouring millions and millions of dollars into races trying to buy their preferred candidate. And we need more tools to fight back against that. And what I had seen as a finance director and a campaign manager working with donors especially, was that these billionaire donors have entire teams of people to help them build and execute their strategy for how they can leverage their money to get what they want. In their case, less regulation on their companies, more money in their pockets, more tax breaks so that they can take money from the rest of us. And they're incredibly effective at doing that. Everyone else was just left to kind of parse through their inbox of the 1,000 emails that we get every day from candidates to try to figure out, where can my $100 save democracy, save reproductive rights, end gun violence, all of these things that matter to me. And so that is really where Oath came from, was trying to tip the scales in grassroots donors' favor to say, actually, you should have the same quality of data and strategy behind your $10, your $50, your $100 as Elon Musk or some billionaire has behind their money. And if we do that, we actually can more effectively counter them and win the elections that really matter.
Yeah. And I think effectiveness is sort of the point here. You know, Oath is creating something that it's our team that's helping us use our money the most effectively. I mean, there's a reason that you guys have been, you know, featured in everything from New York Magazine to Politico to Bloomberg as the smartest way to do your political giving, because you're using sort of data-driven recommendations. You are using a lot of specific data to help people give their money more strategically so their dollars can have a maximum impact. I mean, as I understand it, you guys are analyzing thousands of elections. And that means from the president all the way to the school board candidates to figure out which candidate would be, you know, most effective to support. And then you are taking the information and you're giving it to your people. And if they give you their information, you're not selling it, you're not sharing it, which is something we know happens all the time, because you give to one candidate and all of a sudden you're receiving 10 million text messages and you're like, oh my God, I'm never giving again because I can't even see my inbox anymore. Right. So I think it's really great that you're taking people's information, but then you're not selling it. You're just giving them the recommendations for best practices to use their money effectively.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the system is so broken. The spam has become so crazy. We're all getting these text messages. It's actually, I think, the most common way that people hear from the Democratic Party is not them on television or them doing something amazing, passing some new bill. It's the fundraising text. That's what everyone sees. And it sends a really bad message when the number one message from the party is give $5 before midnight or I'm going to lose my race. And you have no idea who this person even is. So we wanted to create a safer space for Democratic donors to feel like their money does have an impact. They can move the needle in really important races, even the ones they've never heard of, that could swing the future of a state or of Congress, of a municipality. I mean, as you said, we go all the way down to school board, and we're pulling in data from every source imaginable. So we try and take the work out of it and put the impact back into it so that it's a positive experience for donors overall, and that we actually report back and say, here's where your dollars had a big impact, and here are the lessons that we learned from the losses this year and how we're going to do better in the future.
No, that's amazing. But I also think what you're saying there about like the most common way we hear from Democrats is like, you're going to need to give me money. And I think the thing that upsets people is not that they don't understand that we're fighting an uphill battle until we get rid of Citizens United, that we do need money. I mean, it's an absurd amount of money. Elon Musk is able to spend $300 million trying to get Trump elected. That makes a difference. If he throws $10 million into a state Senate race, like that's going to make a huge difference. So we can't pretend money doesn't matter. It does matter. But this idea that the only reason that our party is communicating with us is to be like, if you don't send money today, we're going to lose the whole court and you'll lose your rights. And you're like, okay, calm down. First of all, it would be great if you were on TV saying, we should not be losing our rights. This should not be happening. We are outraged and we're doing everything we can. But they're basically putting it on us every time that if you don't give us money, everything's going to fail. And you're like, you're already failing. Why would I send you money? So I think it's kind of a catch-22 here. I was looking through your website, which, by the way, is very easy to understand, which I really appreciate. A lot of websites are incredibly complicated, but you have something called trending issues. And I thought that was really cool. Like there's a flip the house button, which currently appears to be 100% funded. I'm sure you will extend that later on, but you have an elect governors button, which is 82% funded. You have an entire section called candidates who are being outraised and how to support them. And so it's actually a broader picture of how people want to look at it. Like, yeah, I want to help the candidates that are being outraised. Yes, I want to make sure we get more Democratic governors because we're seeing right now the power of the governors to hold off the power of the federal government. So yeah, I want to invest in that. There's even a button you can click if you're not sure where to start, and you ask them 3 questions to help them decide where they would be most interested in putting their money. Do you find people are using that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the core differentiator for Oath, is that it's really about what's important to you. We're not trying to convince you that X is more important than Y is more important than Z. It's you tell us what's most important to you, and we want to help you find the races where your dollars can go the furthest towards advancing that goal. Exactly as you said, flip the House is one of our most common issue areas. And we identify that gap based on individual races, how much more each one needs in order to be on track to their goal. And then when we hit that 100%, it gets rotated so that there are other candidates who have higher need that get replaced. I think that there's such a wide range of interests and passions in the party and in the base of people who align with the left ideologically. It's really amazing. We want to empower that. We don't want to try to narrow everyone to the same thing or to think the same way. You have things that are important to you. How do we get you from A to B in the most efficient way possible so you don't waste your money, so that you're not inundated and stressed? Honestly, just the stress of trying to participate, as you know, I'm sure you hear from people all the time, is too much. It makes a lot of people want to check out. And so we want it to be like personalized to each person, to say, we get you. We know what matters to you. Here's a set of recommendations for where to begin. Or if you're already like really deep in it, let's go deep and nerd out together and find like a really robust and complicated way for you to invest strategically in overlooked races.
Yeah, I think strategically is the word of the day here, because I think donors want to be far more strategic these days. There's too much on the line to not vote with real intention. You know, people used to say that Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line, but I feel like the most recent election in California shows us, if anything, Democrats have waited a really long time in this race to vote for governor. They were watching the polls. They were seeing how they could strategically box someone out. They were doing the same thing with the mayoral race. And then they voted late. Like, I know we voted the day before the election and then put our ballots in the drop box. And people were like, I can't believe all these late ballots are coming in. You're like, first of all, they weren't late. They were there before election day. Secondly, we were waiting. We were trying to be strategic because we wanted to be careful with our vote. We wanted to make sure we were doing the best that we could. And I think people feel the same way about their money. Are you seeing that kind of data, polling data, that kind of thing affecting the decisions that donors make these days?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people will come to the platform looking for a candidate that they saw on TV or heard in a podcast or something like that. But we use something called an impact score, which is a 0 to 10 point scale, where 10 is best possible use of your money. And when someone's like a 1 or a 2, you might want to think twice and really have a good reason for giving there, because your money's less likely to move the needle. And people come with the intention of giving to someone that's probably already pretty famous or that they saw on their social media or something. And they'll use that score to then discover and support candidates, oftentimes in addition to others who have really high scores, but they otherwise never would have heard about, right? You think about these state legislative races in Wisconsin right now, just as one example, where the race is so cheap, a couple $100,000 is all that these candidates need. And if we get a trifecta in Wisconsin, which is totally achievable in November, then the state might redistrict to have fair maps ahead of 2028, which would give Dems more seats in Congress. So huge impact, not a lot of money required to do it. So your $10 or $50 really matters, but nobody knows who those candidates are, which seat actually needs support, that kind of thing. And so that's our goal. Make it easy, use the impact score, find those types of races, and then in 2 clicks, you've given them the money that you have, which is really meaningful when we all coordinate and do that at the same time.
Yeah, it's long-term planning and it's effective use of your money and time. And it's stuff that regular people wouldn't know. I think that, you know, those of us who are paying attention became skittish about donating because they didn't want to be wasting their money. And we all got burned in races where we gave ridiculous amounts of money to one candidate. I think about, you know, Amy McGrath in 2019, because people got too excited about the idea of getting rid of Mitch McConnell, right? We were like, oh my gosh, she's running against Mitch McConnell. We'll all send her money. But no matter how good a candidate she was, he was never going to lose that race, right? So then she ended up with hundreds of millions of extra dollars. And there were all of these candidates across the nation that could have won, but they didn't have the funds to compete. So we can't keep doing that, right? We can't overfund certain races because they are high profile, while overlooking these races like you're talking about in Wisconsin that could decide elections, could decide balances of power, could decide how district lines are drawn. We can't do that. We have to be far more specific about where we're putting our money because we have to think long term. Where do we want to be? We want to be here in 10 years, not where do we want to be in November. We have to think, where do we want to be 10 years in November? Functional mushrooms seem to be all the hype right now. So, like the nerd I am, I did a bunch of research into different companies working with them, and the same company kept coming up on those best of lists, Mudwater. Are you someone that struggles with brain fog or feeling groggy in the morning, but you're sensitive to caffeine? Then Mudwater might be for you. Mudwater has about 1/7 the caffeine of coffee, so you get the focus and energy without the jitters, crash, or anxiety. Mudwater's original blend is a coffee alternative made with cacao, chai, turmeric, and functional mushrooms like lion's mane and reishi. It's like a spicy hot chocolate, and you get that warm, focused boost without the wired buzz or midday crash. For coffee shop lovers who can't handle the full caffeine load anymore, Mudwater is the version of your morning drink you didn't know existed. Because loving coffee shouldn't mean negotiating with it every morning. Are you ready to make the switch to clean energy? Go to mudwater.com and grab your starter kit. Use the code PoliticsGirl and you'll get 43% off. The frother alone is worth that. That's right, up to 43% off with the code PoliticsGirl at mudwtr.com. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you how you found them. Please show the show some support and let them know we sent you. Try the consistent energy of Mudwater. No spike at 9, no crash at 2. Just steady all day. Okay, so Father's Day just passed and we're thinking about our dads, and our dads are thinking about their hair. Men don't have a whole lot to worry about in the looks department, really. I mean, dad bods are considered hot, but their hair causes them a lot of stress. So we want to make sure we help them with making them feel their best, which is why I want to tell you about iRestore. I have the iRestore Illumina face mask because my concern is my face, my dwindling radiance as I age, and of course those blasted wrinkles. And my husband has the iRestore Elite, the advanced laser hair growth system, because his concern is his hairline and his hair fullness. We do them in bed at night, like little red light nerds. His on his head, mine on my face. iRestore has been leading the way in red light therapy for over 2 decades. They've helped shape the category with clinically backed devices trusted by over 500,000 customers worldwide. The Illumina face mask that I have is lightweight, cordless, packed with 2 times more LEDs than other top masks. It targets fine lines, breakouts, and dullness with triple wavelength therapy. You just have to do it for 10 minutes a few times a week for brighter, smoother, healthier looking skin. The iRestore Elite uses 300 lasers and 200 LEDs to help regrow thicker, healthier hair in as little as 3 months. It's effortless. You literally just wear it while you're working or reading or watching TV at night. And the best part is you can bundle both products together to make the perfect upgrade to your routine. So while you take care of the man in your life, you can also give yourself some attention. iRestore is so confident in their technology that they offer a 12-month money-back guarantee. If you don't see healthier looking skin or fuller looking hair, you will get a full refund without question. Just results or your money back. Right now you can save on customer favorites like the iRestore Elite helmet and the Illumina face mask by heading to iRestore.com and using the code PoliticsGirl. Unlock your best hair and skin with iRestore at iRestore.com/PoliticsGirl. That's PoliticsGirl at iRestore.com. And if they ask, please support the show and tell them we sent you. Give your hair and skin the upgrade they deserve so you can feel confident and refreshed heading into summer. We have to think, where do we want to be 10 years in November?
That's exactly right. And it's so funny that you bring up that example because it is the reason that we founded Oath. It was after
a big deal. She had like $400 million. It was like so bananas. And she was a great candidate, but like it was never going to happen.
Yeah. And it was similar with Jamie Harrison in South Carolina as well, also lost by double digits. And another $100 million in either race would not have changed the outcome. And at the time, me and my co-founder were like, this is such a problem. And how can anyone solve this? It's such a massive issue to take on. But what convinced us to launch Oath was we looked at all of the down ballot candidates in the battleground states that had been outraised, where the Democrat was outraised. And we calculated, and had we redirected just 8% of the total that we gave to Amy McGrath and Jamie Harrison, we could have closed that gap in every single one of those races where a Democrat was outraised. And literally, that is the day that we launched Oath, because that convinced us we don't have to solve the whole problem. I don't have to personally reach every donor in America to convince them to give more strategically. Had we gotten to just 8%, we would have won more races in that cycle. And when you add that and compound that effect cycle over cycle over cycle, the results are incredible. We're on the other end of that, where Republicans have been investing for 40 years in these down ballot races. And that's why when voting rights or reproductive rights or LGBT issues get pushed back to the states, we're screwed right now. And that's like the trauma and panic of the last few years has been Democrats realizing how many places were locked out of power because Republicans have been investing for so long. And now I feel like Oath is a bit of a shortcut for us to catch up. What they did in 40 years, can we do in 4 or in 6? I really believe that that's possible. And I think that it's an imperative, right? If you do care about these issues, if you care about people having access to basic healthcare, whether they're trans or a woman, whether you care about us having meaningful voting rights where not only do you get to go and cast a ballot, but your ballot counts for something. You get to pick the politicians instead of them picking you. Then we have to fight in every one of these battlegrounds. And that's what we're really trying to highlight for people.
Yeah, that is essential. I mean, this idea, honestly, of like, can we shortcut what they did in 40 years is such a brilliant way to look at it, because we are living through a long-term plan come to fruition right now. And we were behind the 8 ball. And I think people are finally realizing the power of state governments. I think the Republicans realized it for a long time because they kept losing federally, that they just turned their attention to school boards, to state legislatures, to, all these PowerPoints that we're now seeing really can change the course of the nation. What they're doing in Florida, what they're doing in Oklahoma, what they're doing in Texas, you can do that if you have the entire state legislature. And we need to flip that around. I feel like Oath is combining the power of data analytics with sort of a learned knowledge of expert political strategy. Like, you are using technology to evaluate everything from the candidate's competitiveness to the stakes of their election to their personal financial needs in that race. And as you were saying, you're giving them that score, right? So the greater the value, the greater the Oath donation to that race, which seems like a particularly smart way to figure out where the money should go and how it can make the biggest difference. And if we're talking about like speeding up this process, like hyper speeding this process to get us to a real competitive place with the Republicans, I think this is the way to do it.
Yeah, thank you. I really do believe that. And we don't have to outspend them, right? That's the key. Is they do have all these billionaires. They have all these corporate interests. They have all these foreign governments that are pouring money into Donald Trump, into his family, into super PACs, into our elections. We do not have to match them dollar for dollar, but we do need to match them data for data. Like, we do have to be on the ball to know where the fight is if you want any shot at winning that fight. Oath projects an optimal funding level for every single race based on the media market that it's in, how much staff and field operations we think that a campaign is going to need in order to have the best shot at winning. And we can achieve those optimal funding levels and win races, even if the Republicans get more money beyond that and they want to dump in money at the last minute. The Wisconsin Supreme Court race is a good example of this, where Elon Musk tried so hard, right? He put in tens of millions of dollars to try and buy that election, but he ended up making the race more about himself. His money was toxic and our money got the vote out about our candidate. And so you don't have to have more money, but we do have more people and we just have to be able to leverage that power. And so we're creating the national infrastructure, the coordination, so that our people power can translate into every single vote that it possibly can.
Yeah. And that Wisconsin Supreme Court race is a good example, because I did a lot of work pointing out that Elon was trying to buy that race and it just pissed people off, right? I try to do that all the time. I pick candidates for people to invest in. Like, I've been talking a lot recently about Mary Patola running for Senate in Alaska because, that state loves her. She's one of their own. She's out way ahead in the race. Her opponent is everything that's wrong with Washington. And your money goes a long way in the Alaska market, right? So it's a strategic way to spend your money. But I'm just one person. Oath is far bigger than just me. You are doing everything, like we said earlier, from federal government to school board. And that breadth of information is invaluable. And if you don't want to make any decisions, I love that Oath can say, like, listen, just donate monthly to Oath and we'll put your money where we think it will be best used from month to month. And I think that would actually help a lot of people that are like, I don't know, I want to help, I want to make a difference. But if I can just give the money to you guys, you can say, look, we're going to get this school race in Oklahoma. We're going to make sure we get the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. We're going to get the Senate in Alaska, and we're going to spread your money out so it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, we launched that program at the beginning of this year. We call it Oath on Autopilot. And you can pick one of a few issues that really matters the most to you. And then your money will go to a different place every month based on where there's the highest need. Importantly, the money never comes to us. When we process donations, it's always going from donor to recipient, whether that's a candidate or a organization. We have nonprofits on the platform that do things like voter registration and education and mobilization. We have all kinds of different groups. I wanted to be really clear with people from day one that this was never going to be a scheme for us to get money off of the backs of these races. So we don't take custody of the funds. It goes direct from donor to recipient, and we don't take a cut of the contributions. There's no platform fee. Oath operates off of tips. And so when you give, you have the option to tip the platform because we do not sell your data. We don't share it with campaigns. We never text you. And we offer this guidance to everyone for free. And so most donors do choose to do that. That's how our team has been able to continue to grow. But yeah, it's a really cool way, I think, for people to have a recurring impact throughout the election cycle without the stress of feeling like they need to watch every headline and be like, well, what's happening with redistricting? Well, now the map is going to change and now it's not. Now it's Alabama. Now it's, and that is too much chaos for a lot of people. So leave that part to us. We'll just make sure that your money can go to a really, really effective strategy every month.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like most other consultants who are like buying boats off losing elections. I mean, I almost died watching us, raise over $1 billion for the Kamala Harris election and then losing with that amount of money and the better candidates and the better ideas against like a literal career criminal. And all the consultants, all the people that were helping were buying beach houses with the money they had made off the consulting fees for losing an election. And I thought, are you kidding me right now? Like, this cannot be how we do this.
Yeah. And I think that's been talked about more since 2024 than it has been in recent election cycles, that too many Democrats, I'm going to say professional Democrats, people who are political operatives for a living, are insulated from the consequences of their behavior, because the same firm will take that, whatever, $100 million, take a fee of the money that gets spent on ads, lose the race, and then get hired right back again the next cycle to do the whole thing again. And people are making millions of dollars off of it. And it's time for there to be more accountability, that we have to close the loop. Donors never hear back after you give that $25. You never hear back about the person who, whether they win or lose typically, but especially from somebody who loses, to be like, hey, thank you for your money, even though it didn't work out. Here's why. Here's what we're doing different. Here's what we like. That doesn't exist. That is why we built that into the platform. We do impact reports that are very similar to Spotify Wrapped. I don't know if you're a Spotify girly, but
my son is a Spotify girly.
Okay. Yeah. So like at the end of the year, when everyone's posting, they're like, these are my top artists, my top songs, my albums, whatever. We do that, but for your political giving. And so it's like, here's how much you gave, which candidates you funded, who won, who lost, what's going to change as a result. Did you help flip the Michigan House of Representatives? Did you help change the ideological balance of a Supreme Court? And why not, if not? And we have to answer to you and tell you if we were wrong or if the data was wrong or what have you. But I do think that it's important that we sort of close that loop, that people feel like there's accountability. After you give, you deserve to know. You deserve to know.
So my son Lachlan is going off to college in the fall, and he was recently doing his laundry, and he said, "Can I take laundry sauce with me to school?" So my teenage son was asking if he could take our particular laundry detergent with him to college. Tell me another laundry detergent that a teenager would even notice, let alone want to include in the things they pack for college. Here's the thing. I know I sound like an idiot talking about how great laundry sauce is, about how nice it smells, how well it cleans, the fact that they partnered with the top perfumers in the world to make their scents. But nothing tells you how great it is better than an 18-year-old asking if he can continue to use it across the country. Our family goes back and forth between scents. We are currently on a Siberian pine and Indonesian patchouli kick. But maybe you want something more bright and citrusy for summer. Then I would look into their Italian bergamot. Maybe you want something more rugged. Then it would be Australian sandalwood. Laundry Sauce recently came out with their first certified hypoallergenic fragrance made for sensitive skin types called Himalayan Cashmere, with notes of light floral and pear. And Laundry Sauce isn't just about smelling incredible, it's engineered for performance. Their highly concentrated pods are packed with the cleaning power of bioenzymes that obliterate stains and keep everything fresh. And for a limited time, our listeners will get 20% off their entire order when they use the code PoliticsGirl20 at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off their order at laundrysauce.com with the promo code PoliticsGirl20. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them, so please support the show and tell them we sent you. laundrysauce.com, code PoliticsGirl20. This isn't just premium laundry pods. It's a full upgrade to your laundry routine. And it's Lachlan approved. So I don't really have any vices. I never smoked. Well, that's not true. I smoked. I just was never a smoker. I don't do drugs. I can't smoke weed. So having a drink once in a while is kind of my only thing. But as you get older, having a drink becomes more and more of a hassle the next day, and it starts to feel like, what's the point? I've become a one martini wonder, and even then I feel a bit off the next day, which is why I'm so excited that Cheers Restore has decided to become a sponsor of this podcast. Cheers Restore has been a product that I've been using for about 6 months now, and I use the Restore After Alcohol Aid. You take it before you go to bed or after your last drink, and it helps metabolize alcohol more efficiently and supports your overall liver health while you sleep. Most people think it's dehydration that makes you feel bad after drinking, but the real issue is what happens in your brain and liver while you sleep. When alcohol leaves your system, your brain goes into rebound mode, which is what makes you feel rotten. DHM in Cheers works while you sleep to smooth out that rebound, and at the same time converts the toxic byproducts in your liver to help clear that out. We carry it with us everywhere now. There's a reason that Cheers Restore is backed by doctors and PhDs and over 1,000 verified clinicians. There's a reason they have sold over 50 million doses. It really does help you wake up feeling at least 50% better. Now, that doesn't mean you can drink 8 drinks and feel like you drank 4. Binge drinking is still a very bad idea. But it does mean that if you are a moderate drinker like myself, you can still enjoy a margarita at a restaurant or a couple of beers by a lake or a martini and not lose the entire next day. I order ours online, but you can also get it at 30,000 retail locations, including Target, CVS, and Walgreens. So take Cheers Restore after your last drink before going to bed and wake up feeling at least 50% better or your money back. For a limited time, our listeners are getting 20% off their entire order by using the code PoliticsGirl at cheershealth.com. Just head to cheershealth.com and use the code PoliticsGirl for 20% off. And after you purchase, you know what to do. They're going to ask you where you heard about them. So please support our show and tell them that we sent you.
After you give, you deserve to know. You deserve to know.
Yeah, you deserve to know. But also, like you said, this is the time for more accountability. Like, if you are making just as much money losing races as you are winning races, what's the impetus to win, right? Like, what's the point? You just do the same thing, wash and repeat. Like in this case, it's like, okay, we have to win to be able to tell our people, hey man, tip us when you're doing the thing because we're doing good work and it's working out. And like, if it doesn't work out, we'll explain to you why and we'll learn from that and we'll move forward. Like, to me, you are the fundraising function of the future. Like, this is what my son would rather give money to, right? Like, to know that he's going to be accountable. And I think young voters particularly, I mean, me, I'm not young, but I would totally use you because you're accountable to me and you're using my money effectively. I was saying in the introduction that you and the people at Oath have processed nearly $100 million in contributions in under 4 years. And that's a lot of money. And I think that that's wonderful, especially if you're not taking a cut of it for yourselves, right? It is going to the actual candidates. What do you think that kind of donor activity, $100 million in under 4 years, tells us about democratic enthusiasm or our priorities or our engagement heading into the midterms?
Yeah, it definitely tells us that people are fired up, because I will tell
Right.
you a majority of the $100 million has come just in the last 8 months. That it's accelerating because as people both find out about Oath and also get engaged in the midterm elections because they want so desperately for there to be accountability for Donald Trump's disastrous administration, there are so many people who feel the same way that we do, that are fired up and ready to take action, that it's not just about what is sort of being covered online, but that people are ready to move the needle and they want real power. They want voting power to be a check on the Trump administration. So we track every single day what people are giving to, what's motivating them, and where there are gaps, because sometimes we'll have donors come and say like, oh, I want to be able to support X issue area, education, when people are focused on school boards or something like that. And we will then go out and do additional research to provide them that recommendation. I think that big picture, $100 million, huge milestone for us. We've been able to affect over 2,000 races in the time that we have existed, many of them local. A majority of that money went to down ballot races, sub-federal, so attorney general, secretary of state, state legislature, and probably most importantly, 70% of the funds went to races that were decided by less than 5%. And so the closest races where fundraising really does matter, because a few extra dollars can be a few extra votes, which change the margin of the race and the outcome of the election. And so we're really proud of that and are confident that that will continue in 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, man, let's 10x that. Like, what can we do? If we are being that effective, it would be so great to know that we were in those little races. And like you said, you're doing these down ballot races. The attorney general is the one that will, decide if your race is legal or not legal. The secretary of state will decide if the election itself is held legally or not legally. These are hugely important races. And then the state legislative races are what's holding us back from being completely destroyed by the federal government deciding that they're going to do everything by executive order. And they're saying, nope, you're not going to. These are hugely important races. And, all the way down to school board, who are deciding what your children are allowed to read. My friend was saying the other day that the Diary of Anne Frank is banned in his Florida school. And I was like, yeah, we can't have that. It has to be, we also have to have the school boards, because this cannot be the America that we live in. And every single day we watch sort of a fresh new injury happening to us. And we're like, I don't want to just, put a Band-Aid over the wound. I want to heal the wound. I want to sew it up. And we have to do that strategically and with the right tools. Part of the tools you guys are using is technology. You're using a lot of technology to do this. You're using a lot of data, that kind of thing. What technology are you specifically using? Because we're seeing technology reshaping political participation in everything from social media to volunteer work to get out the vote. What are your thoughts on using technology effectively as we move into these upcoming elections?
It's absolutely necessary. We have to be innovating in order to reach people in a really noisy world that we all inhabit, that is also now, as you and I both know, full of malicious disinformation. And so being able to break through to people, build trust, which is the most important part of the entire operation, right? Give people valuable information that they actually know they can rely on, and then get them plugged into whatever their power is in our democracy, whether that is talking to their friends about voting, getting themselves registered, donating to a candidate. All of that requires now in 2026 technology to be able to do that. New platforms, new innovative tools. And I see a lot of people in the ecosystem that are seeing that, understanding where the gaps are for Democrats, and launching new organizations, building new tools. It's only going to accelerate. What we're seeing from the adoption of AI is that our problems are going to rapidly evolve, because now, as an example, candidates are panicked over, what is this chatbot going to be saying about me? Because if my voters aren't Googling, but are instead searching on ChatGPT for who should I vote for, are we showing up there? How are we showing up there? That really matters, right? And just as similarly, we've built tools so that when someone says, how can we change the political future of my state? We can identify the exact races and the path to securing that kind of power in the short term and long term and put their dollars to work to get there. To address the core of your question, we built Oath from the ground up. We have a team of engineers. About half my team are engineers and data analysts. We pull in data from every available public source. So every Secretary of State website, everyone doing forecasting, social media, press, everything like that. Pull that in. We have an algorithm that's running all the time. We supplement that data with data that we purchase from organizations like Catalyst and Civitech, Ballotpedia, Ballot Ready. There's a lot of them. And then the algorithm feeds our team a steady stream of quantitative data that we then go do qualitative analysis on, because the numbers tell you a lot, but they can't tell you everything. The example that I like to use is it's surprisingly and unfortunately common for state legislative candidates to have DUIs. And it doesn't show up if that happens in the middle of a campaign. It doesn't show up in the data, but it can really affect the race if someone's running ads on someone having some sort of indiscretion or something. And so we have to go have a presence in those races to understand what's changing on the ground and what's the perspective of the state party or the local Democratic club, those kinds of things. All of that gets fed into the impact score, believe it or not. And so that is the tech that we've been building year over year over year, is how do we make sense of that in our models and give people the most precise recommendations that we can.
I love that. Also because you're talking about new organizations, new tools that are popping up, because I think a lot of us who are in opposition to what we're seeing in the federal government right now, whether you call yourself a Democrat or you're an independent or you're a lost Republican, you're like, this is not my party. I don't know what this is. UFC fighting on the lawn of the White House. That's not who I am. Whatever it is, I think the thing is we know that we can't count on the old institutions to help us. They are not meeting the moment. They are not getting with the program. They are doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, which we all know is the definition of insanity. So we need young, new, fresh ideas that are like, this is a different way to do it. This is a different way to study it. This is a different way to make sure we're not losing every time when we have the better candidate and the better ideas and the majority of the country's behind us. How is it that we have such a terrible track record with winning when we should be winning every time? I personally think that the Republicans are a little over their skis as they gerrymander every district they can and think they're going to continue to win, because I think they're overestimating how popular they are right now, because people are not happy. Even if someone doesn't want to vote for the Democrat because their news station has brainwashed them into hating the party, they're not happy with the cost of living or the war or the data centers. I mean, those data centers are something else, right? No one wants them, not Democrats, not Republicans, not independents, yet they're going up at record speed across the country because Republican representatives refuse to listen to the people. I think that alone is an election winning issue. But we have to make sure that even if, we have election winning issues, we're still winning. And I think that's the point here. It's not an old model. It's a new model, which I think is what any of us who are paying attention know that we need.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people have an assumption that a good environment for Democrats will automatically translate into wins across the country and up and down ballot. That it's like, oh, people are so mad. Gas is doubling. Inflation is up 75% since Biden left. People are going to be furious in November and they're going to come out and Republicans are going to suffer because of it. I don't think that automatically applies at every level of the ballot. What we see from research, both the research that we do and just long decades of academic research, is that people's opinions are much more malleable down ballot because they don't know who these people are. They feel like they have a pretty solid idea of what it means to be a Democrat in Congress or a Republican in Congress or in the Senate especially, and they have pretty fixed opinions on those things that they're very hard to change. There's a very narrow band of people that are persuadable. But when you go further down the ballot for a state legislative race or something like that, people are like, I don't know these people. They're from the community and they are much easier and more cheap to persuade and educate. But we have to fund the campaigns in order for the candidates to do that work of educating them and persuading them. It does not automatically translate. And we just saw that happen in Georgia, where we had 2 Supreme Court seats that Democrats were trying to flip just in May. And we've been overperforming in every election by 10, 15, 20 points in special elections for a state legislature, in races like Afton Bain in Tennessee. And we lost those seats because we did not do the right work to get people on the same page about who needed to come out of that race on top. And so even though more Democrats showed up than Republicans for the election overall, we lost. So it's a demand, right? It's a mandate that we have to go into these races further down ballot, make sure that the campaigns have what they need to win, because that's the only path back, which you have so eloquently put, is like these are the buttresses of democracy that we need in order to hold the tide against Trump, billionaire. I have to start introducing trillionaire into my lexicon. Trillionaire club of kleptocrats. And so like that's what it's all about. You have to know where and you have to get involved.
Yeah. And we can't just, like you said, we don't have to outraise them. We just have to outthink them. And there's more of us. So if we outthink them, we will have more votes. I think that's the thing. We have to keep thinking about Hungary. And, you know, they were much further down the line in the authoritarian sort of push. They had already taken over their courts. They had already taken over their media. They had already changed their constitution. And an 80% turnout switched the balance of power. They couldn't even, JD Vance couldn't even bring it home for them.
I think he hurt. I think they were like, absolutely, we don't want that in here. I think that he was bad for them.
Man anywhere near us. But honestly, like it was a turnout. It was turnout. It was knowledge. And I think that's what we need. And it, like I was saying with Oath, like even if you don't have the time to get all the knowledge, if you don't have the time to be educated, you can just give to Oath and they will take their education and use your money effectively. And then they will answer to you at the end of it, which I think is really the most important part. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Brian. Please tell people how we can help you out. How do we help Oath grow? What do we do to use Oath to make our own political giving? What can we do?
The number one thing is to go sign up for Oath and get some recommendations about where your dollars can have an impact. You can make a donation on the platform. It will go straight to the candidates of your choosing. And tell your friends. We mostly have grown through word of mouth and social media. That is over 50% of our users. And so doing a little post, no matter how many followers you have, or just sending a text to your friends, family who have similar values to you that, hey, this is a tool that you can use for free that's at your disposal, is incredibly impactful. And that's how we're going to do the next 100 million and win every race that we possibly can in November. And then again in 2027, and then again in 2028. And we're just going to build from there.
Yeah, keep building. What is the website that they go to?
It is Oath.vote, OATH.vote.
Guys, Oath.vote. This is how we're going to spend our money. This is where we're going to put our time, because they have put in the effort and the technology to actually make it effective for us. And they're not out here buying boats. They are out here winning elections.
No boats. Sorry, guys. Our celebration parties will be firmly on land when we flip the house in November.
That's good. We don't want our money going to boats. Thank you so much, Brian. We're really, really appreciative for all of your efforts and all of your time and thinking way outside the box so we can start winning again.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming. So that was Brian Derrick, reminding us that now is the time for accountability, from the federal government to the people, from our electeds to the voters, and from the fundraising platforms to their donors. So many of us are fired up and ready to fight back, but what is the most effective action for us to take? Well, in my opinion, donating to Oath or telling Oath what you want to donate to, what you care about, what you want to accomplish is a great step. As Brian said, we don't need to outspend the billionaires. We need to outthink and then outvote them. Oath is the shortcut to meet the Republicans where they are, to fight them on equal footing. Oath isn't operating to make money for themselves. They're operating to win back the country for us. They don't take a cut. They aren't selling our information. It's a new blueprint for fundraising, one that serves the donors and not the donor organization. And I am entirely here for it. I want to thank Brian for joining us today and you for caring enough about democracy to be here. Now go to oath.vote and get involved. We need to hold this government accountable, and that starts today. Until next week, PG out. Before you go, I want to remind you that you're not getting this kind of information on mainstream media. The American government is clearly trying to silence any voices that don't prop up their power structure. So if you respect what I'm trying to do here, if you learn something from my podcasts and rants, if you would like to get this podcast ad-free delivered directly to your inbox, along with my kitchen rants and TV appearances, then please consider becoming a member of Politics Girl Premium by going to PoliticsGirl.com and signing up. If you are already a premium member of this podcast, thank you for your support. And if you're not a member, please consider becoming a patron of my work. If you want real knowledge in a world of lies, it's essential to support those of us out here still trying to bring them to you. There's a link to sign up in the bio of this episode, but also at PoliticsGirl.com. And as always, please like and share these podcasts so we can grow our audience, because the more people who have access to this kind of information, the better. As always, thank you for your time and support. The Politics Girl podcast is written and performed by me, Lee McGowan, and produced and edited by Happy Warrior Entertainment. All rights reserved.